That was Instant Utopia from the Romantic Irony album. Thank you, Tremor, for being here in the studio to chat with me.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. I'm very excited. Also, for participating in our cool sleepover theme. Definitely appreciate that. For those tuning in, KPSU is currently doing a fundraiser. We've got 28 hours of broadcasting to celebrate the 28 years that KPSU has been broadcasting on the radio. We've been broadcasting since 1994, so like old enough that it's still a millennial, but you're starting to think it's getting old. But for those interested, they can go to kpsu.org/donate. We've got a link there where you can pledge support, even if it's just $1 or $2. We definitely appreciate it. A little bit goes a long way to help independent radio and support those who've been on the air here. We've also got, as I mentioned, a little sleepover theme. So if you go to our Instagram or Facebook for KPSU, you'll see myself as well as the wonderful band here in style pajamas, celebrating our little sleepover 28-hour theme.
Yep. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but my T-shirt is like Portland State T-shirt, by the way.
Way to be on point. Good job.
Mine's not.
Well, yours is Portland State green, though, so, you know, I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Thanks for letting us be cozy. I just want to wear my pajamas all the time now.
Right? It's like now that you've done this and been out in public in your pajamas, you realize no one really minds if you're wearing PJs in public in Portland. Like, you can pretty much wear whatever around here. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, we should play a show.
We should do, like, early in the morning.
Yeah, have like a brunch theme show.
Yeah.
I think that could work. All right, before we get too far, we should introduce ourselves here. Obviously, people not necessarily recognize you, but probably know my voice. I'm DJ Rochelle. I have a little rasp from a cold from last week. I'm not sick, I promise. I just have a little extra sexy rasp today. I want to, of course, introduce the wonderful band Tremors. It's not the full band, but we've got two fabulous members here. How about you introduce yourselves and what you play in the band so people know what to associate as far as instrumentation with each of you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my name is Teppei, and thanks for having us. And I play guitar and sometimes piano, and I'm mainly a singer of the band.
And harmonica.
Oh, and harmonica.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's very important. One song, a couple songs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopefully more songs.
Yeah. And I'm Pipo. I play mostly guitar and a little bit of keys. I also use a modular synthesizer, which is the weirdest instrument in the world. And if you don't know what it is, go to our Instagram page, Tremor Band PDX, and you will see what that looks like. Or come to our show. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah.
Awesome. I do have to mention we've got a lot of really cool shows lined up for our 28-hour broadcast. For those interested, they go to the KPSU YouTube. We've got a live stream of our lobby. You could also rewind that live stream. That's one of those cool things I discovered on YouTube when I was actually watching Darcel's funeral. That's totally unrelated, but was live streaming it and realized you can rewind those things. So yeah, you can rewind live streams on YouTube and see us wandering around the lobby in our pajamas and check that out. We do also, I have to plug and say thank you to Sub Basement Studios, aka PSU Television. They've got a live stream up on their page, so psu.tv/live. If you go to YouTube, you'll see their cool live stream that actually has the really cool fancy cameras zoomed in so you get the close-up nice, profile and beautiful lighting image of the musicians here in the studio chatting with us.
Yeah, and we're really pretty, so you should definitely check that out.
I mean, you got all prettied up for us in the, silky pajamas and your cool beret.
Exactly.
And we're sporting the Portland State rep here, all of that, which definitely appreciate.
Yeah.
Also have to mention, again, we've got the 28-hour broadcast. There'll be a show directly after mine where you'll hear Elle performing some cool stuff. And we've got some trivia things happening during tomorrow afternoon for those who want to call in. We do take requests, and you can ask questions of the band if you want to call in. The request line is 503-725-5945. Or you can, of course, message us on social media. You can find me under The DJ Rochelle. It's RACHELLE. And then I'll share some of your questions with the band if you're timely enough. If not, I'll just forward the message to them on social media. We've got all these cool shows happening here, but you guys have a really cool show coming up. How about you tell me all about it?
Yeah, so we are playing a show at Holocene on May 21st, which is this Sunday. And the show is themed as a shoegaze, dream pop, ambient night. And we are playing with really cool local musicians. One is 10 Million Light and Helen's, and Central Detente, which is People's solo project, actually.
Right on.
Yeah, and it's a bunch of local bands, and they're very much in line with the theme for the night. And yeah, I don't think as far as I know, we haven't had anything like that in Portland for a while. So really trying to like bring people together. If you're interested in that kind of music, even if you don't know the bands, just come check them out and you meet other people that have similar interests, whether it's music or just gear, whatever it may be. It's I think the whole idea is they're like building community around this as well.
Yeah. So we pitched this idea of like doing a shoegaze show to Holocene, and they agreed with us. So we invited 10 Million Lights and Helen's. They are both really good shoegaze bands, like local shoegaze bands. So yeah, we are really excited for this show.
That's awesome. I did already get a couple of social media comments as I did the little shout out, just people saying that they're excited to hear more, and congrats for being here. No official questions yet, but if I get any, I'll forward them along.
Sounds good. Thank you.
For those that are not able to make your shoegaze show, if they want to find out about future shows or just want to find more of your music, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so the best place would be Instagram. Our Instagram account is Tremor Band PDX. And
Can you spell Tremor? Because I know I had a typo the first 2 times.
oh, okay, yeah. So TREMOR.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tremor like earthquake, like shaking,
Yeah.
that kind of
Right.
tremor.
So there's
yeah.
an E and an O, not
Yeah.
2 E's.
Yeah. And it's a single word, Tremor Band PDX, no periods, no underline, underscores, or anything like that. Just, one single word. PDX is in the Portland airport. PDX.
Right? Like we all kind of associate PDX with Portland, so yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and we have a Linktree on our Instagram account, so you can find Spotify, Bandcamp, Apple Music. So yeah, if you go to this Linktree, you can find our music. Yeah, and we post like our shows information on Instagram. So yeah.
As well as recordings, video, and audio, and obviously you can check out all the music on the links to Spotify, all that good stuff. So yeah, I think Instagram is kind of the hub. It's probably the easiest, and most people have Instagram accounts these days. So yeah, just look it up. It's free. It doesn't cost any money.
Right? That's the best part.
Yeah.
That's what we all love about social media.
Exactly. And it's easy to reach out to us too. So yeah,
Right.
like bands that might be interested in like, wanting us to share a bit with them, or they want to share a bit with us. You can always just DM us using Instagram. We have a email account that you can also find on Instagram. So if you'd rather do that, you can once again go to our Instagram account and find our email account. But DM is also totally fine. So yeah, we just want to be in touch with people, make it as easy as possible.
Yeah. We would love to play with more local bands, have similar sounds, or even like bands have a little bit of different sounds from us. Yeah.
Right? That's one of the cool things about Portland is people like to collaborate and work together. It's not the same sort of competitiveness that you find in other markets. I definitely appreciate. With the collaboration you have in this band, how did you all meet? How did this come about?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a long story. So
We got time. I'll get comfy. Wait,
So-
I already am comfy. All right.
So I am from Japan, and People is from Brazil, and back in 2017, when I first came to Portland State as a graduate student, I was in this sort of a seminar of World Language and Literature department, and there's a guy from kind of a Portland local famous band, the Shivas.
Shout out Shivas. Hey.
Yeah, and he was back then teaching Spanish, and I was teaching Japanese, and I was like, I want to start a band, and we were having a good conversation about local music, and he invited me to their Halloween show, which was 2017 Halloween. and I went there with my housemate back then, Edgar, and then Edgar knew people.
No, we met that
and-
night. We,
Oh,
we
really?
just started talking kind of randomly. I was standing next to each other, and
Oh, I thought you two knew each other.
no, we just
Oh,
met
okay.
that night.
Oh, wow.
Don't remember who started talking to whom, but yeah, we just kind of organically just approached each other, and that happened. And then Edgar was like, "Oh, I think you're like my friend, my housemate, and they like the same kind of music, and play guitar as well." So that's kind of how we met. It was very, very organic and serendipitous, I think, is a good word to describe it.
Yeah. And the special thing is like, I'm foreigner. I mean, I'm non-native English speaker, and I was not super confident with my English, and I was not really confident about like, if I can start a band here in Portland. So yeah, that was kind of special in that way too, because people that graduate school at PSU, and he's also an back then international student. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're both immigrants definitely made it easier. I mean, I have most people can't tell unless they tell them, but because of my accent. But I think just having the like sensitivity, right, to working with people. I mean, being myself from another country, and English is my second language as well. So I think that definitely made it easier for us to connect, and not just musically, but just in general, and become friends.
Right, having that thing in common to kind of bond over that sort of sense of alienation, but also togetherness in being the alienation.
Yeah, and then we started putting ads on Craigslist first.
Yeah, it was Craigslist
And
band.
then it didn't go really well for the first, I don't know, half a year or so. And we decided to make demo first.
Yeah.
And then we started getting like a bunch of sort of applicants for audition. And so, well, we had a lot of member changes, but that way we got Warren and Rory, and then Rory brought our current drummer Bobby. Yeah, and that was sort of the first Tremor. We played our first show with these members.
Yeah, it was in January 2019. So it took a while to get, because we were, like, as Tepe was saying, we try to, like, let's just form a band and write music together. That was the whole idea. I think we both share this very, like, collaborative ethos when it comes to, like, the creation process itself. And so we were like, we should, kind of this collectivist idea of, like, we're all going to write music together, so let's find the members and then see how that shapes the music. But that, yeah, as Tepe was saying, didn't go very well. So we decided to just, Tepe had some music that he was already working on and just kind of producing it together. And then once we had a few EPs, we put together a little, like, a few songs, we put together a little EP with basically demos, and put it on Bandcamp just so we could maybe find people that were, had some interest in that kind of music. And it's, not easy to find people that, not necessarily like it, but they like want to play that kind of music. So we had to go through a few people before, once we found those three that Tepe was just describing, we were able to actually, like, practice on a regular basis and start playing shows. But it was a good year, at least. We were hanging out, working on music almost every weekend, every Saturday night.
Yeah, that was a really good ritual. Yeah.
And then, of course, pandemic happened.
Yeah. A lot has happened. I actually left the band. So at the end of 2019, I did move abroad. I left at the beginning of December, and COVID hit, and so I came back a few months later. So I was back here in March of 2020. And I didn't actually rejoin the band until last summer. So I was gone from the band for about, a year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 years.
Yeah. So, so Tepe and I started a band, but I actually quit the band because I actually did move abroad. And then COVID brought me right back, which, blessing in disguise
There you
in a lot of
go.
ways.
Pandemic wasn't all terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pandemic. Yeah, speaking of the pandemic period, I think we kind of created sort of a special bond. I mean, the drummer Bobby and I, and back then we had another singer, Olivia, but we were kind of supporting each other, during the pandemic, because I had the job at PSU and non-profit, but I was taking care of Japanese students who are studying in the United States, but they all went home, so I lost my job, and because I'm not a citizen, I didn't get any kind of support, what's it called, unemployment
Or
Yeah.
benefits, yeah.
yeah, or like food stamp or whatever. So, and Bobby works at the restaurant, and Olivia works at the farm. So they brought me food, and they literally helped me to survive. And
Oh,
back
wow.
then, I was working on my MA thesis, and we were putting an album together, which is All Because of the Sun, and part of the romantic irony too. So yeah, that was a hard time, but that was in a way good, bond making time. Like, we got strong bond out of the pandemic.
Right, and brought all those emotional bonds together. That's really beautiful, and definitely I can understand the stress of that too. And you mentioned you were working on your thesis, so you didn't have to worry about your immigration status, at least, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
'Cause I can imagine. I know there's others who that was a huge stress during that time too.
Yeah, and at one point, the flight ticket was going up, and because I was a graduate, I mean, I'm still a graduate student. Now I'm working on my PhD, but I didn't have a lot of saving, and at one point, the flight ticket go over the money I had in my bank account, and I was like, this is the last timing. I mean, I have to make my mind, like, if I go back to Japan or stay here for probably quite a long time,
And that's a tough decision to make, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that was really helpful to have like Bobby and Olivia in that time. Yeah.
And also at the time, you, Bobby, and Olivia were housemates, right?
Yeah, it was that's true.
Yeah,
That was
so-
a little
Not like they had to
after-
go far.
yeah. We started live together.
Live together, yeah. That's how much of a bond they created,
Yeah.
through that experience.
Yeah.
So,
That's really great.
Yeah.
And since we've been talking about Olivia and Bobby, do you want to mention what they play in the band?
Yeah, actually, so Bobby plays drums, and Olivia sadly left the band, but now we have Ray and Jet, and Ray plays keyboard and she sings too. She has a beautiful voice, and Jet plays bass.
That's great. In fact, I want to play this song you have on your playlist here, Tiger Lily, which is definitely different from some of your earlier music. It doesn't have the same sort of shoegazy feel. It actually has more of kind of a, I would say, a 70s psychedelic rock feel, because you've got all that cool mishmash of different sounds and echoing and kind of the lush harmonies of vocals and everything.
Yeah.
Before I play this track, do you want to kind of talk about that contrast, that difference?
Sure. Yeah. So I feel like our music is inspired by like shoegaze and psychedelic rock mainly. So psych rock is one of our really biggest influence, and that's something I kind of grew up with as a musician. Shoegaze is kind of more recent thing for me. So I was listening to a lot of 60s and 70s rock when I was in like high school and college. So, and also back then when I wrote this song, I was listening to this artist called the Blank Blue, and the album title is Western Water Music Volume 2, but he does this music, sort of a mix of hip hop and psych rock, has a little bit of Asian taste. So I thought that kind of hybridity is really, really cool. And, because I'm from Japan, I could kind of include Asian elements in a probably a little more natural way, especially the vocal melody, the first verse, well, first and second verse, is kind of similar to how like Japanese enka singer. Enka is sort of like a traditional style of pop music. So I kind of took vocal melody, like inspiration for vocal melody from that genre of music. So it's kind of my version of mix of these genres.
I think that explains some of the folk sounds I was picking out too. That it's what you were saying there, the Japanese enka.
It's like the cadence and the intonation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's got kind of that, as you mentioned, cadence and intonation when you listen to folk music, kind of that storytelling element and the pacing, how it kind of has that feel. But then you've got all the instrumentation that definitely has the psychedelic rock feel to it. So it's kind of a cool marriage of the two.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it. Anything else you want to mention before I play this track?
I think that's, pretty much what I wanted to mention about this song. So
Okay.
let's play it.
Let's hear Tiger Lily. That's quite the energy you had there on that track. Definitely feel that big full sound. I don't want to say it's like, I want to make the comparison with Lackaman where they've got that very big orchestral sound, but it's not necessarily orchestral. It's just very full. You've got all these great drum fills and everything in there.
yeah, thank you.
And cool guitar sounds that just, sometimes when you have those big full sounds, they can sound kind of muddy and distorted in a not good way, but this feels very intentional, like you on purpose want it to sound this cool way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. So yeah, when we were working on this album, we were layering a lot of guitars, and I was learning how to mix everything. So yeah, that was a really nice compliment. Thank you.
For those tuning in, I am here with two members of the band Tremor, who you just heard on that track, Tiger Lily. Just very, as I was saying, big full sound, and it's got kind of that psychedelic rock vibe compared to your more shoegazy, sort of slower tempo songs that I've heard in earlier. Do you want to kind of talk about that shift where you went from sort of this down-tempo shoegaze, which is still in some of your newer tracks, but it feels like your slower songs in the new ones are the shoegaze, but then the, I guess, faster tempo, more rock sounding, you've got in there is definitely a newer sound. Did you have a change in your gear, or was it just a shift in direction, or maybe you want to kind of have both? Tell me more about what direction you're going here.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of that, like shoegaze element and psychedelic rock or 70s rock element, that was sort of our basis of the music. So we had both element from the beginning as a concept, you know, but we started actually recording it and releasing it around the time we recorded and released our first full album. Yeah, so Tiger
the
Lily,
way they came out then, because I'm thinking what I think of as quote-unquote earlier tracks may not necessarily be your quote-unquote early music. It just was recorded and released differently.
Yeah. So actually, Romantic Irony, and which is the first EP, we listened to Instant Utopia from it, and All Because of the Sun was sort of the same session, well, same process. We spent like a year and a half to put them together, but first we were trying to make like a way longer one album, and we decided split some songs and then make EP, and which became Romantic Irony, which was our first EP. Yeah, so Instant Utopia was gonna be in the album, but when we were going through all the recording process and thinking about the track numbers and everything, we came up with an idea like releasing these 4 songs as an EP first. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instant Utopia, I think, was his first song we ever worked on together, right?
Yeah.
So we had this
really early song. Yeah.
We were like kind of figuring out what this band would, or the music would be like, and it was like, I'm very much into like Velvet Underground, and like I grew up playing, you know, like listening to like a lot of 70s punk and proto punk, and so definitely had that like vibe. But now we still play that song, but we changed the way we play it. So it sounds a little bit more dream poppy. We actually play a little bit faster,
right.
And yet it has this like more ethereal vibe. I think it's a little less.
Less
Strokes,
krautrocky. rocky.
Less Strokes, less Velvet Underground.
Yeah,
a little bit more. I don't know, Beach House, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When we first, when we were working on this song for the first time, I think what we had in mind is like Noi and Velvet Underground and like building trilogy time of David Bowie.
Yeah.
And we somehow wanted to make it as in a way shoegazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. and then it ended up becoming like that song. But now we play differently, as you mentioned.
Oh, okay, so when people go to see you perform live, instead of hearing what we just listened to, they're going to hear kind of more dream pop version, a little more, I don't know.
Yeah, a little more dreamy. Yeah. I mean, it's not like, that drastic change, but subtle nuance. I think.
More like the effects that we use. Like the parts are basically all there, but for instance, I use like a more shoegazy, like dream poppy sound on the guitar, the little melody that is in the song, but yeah, the structure is pretty much the same. It's more of just the aesthetic of it, I guess, is changed a little bit.
Talk to me a little bit about the gear you use.
Oh, are you ready?
Yeah. All right. Take a deep breath, and then let's just list it.
Yeah, we have a lot of things we want to mention probably, but the I feel like one of my signature like sound is coming from the reverse reverb pedal I have. I'm using Digitech Porela, and which has this beautiful reverse reverb function, and for Torch, which we might gonna play later, but the that one, well, you can hear that Porela reverse reverb on that track, and also we love Earthquaker Devices, which is a company makes guitar pedals. And I use Rainbow Machine and Avalanche Run from them, and this Avalanche Run has a reverse delay, which is also kind of a make like shoegazy effects.
It kind of lends, I think that delay, maybe what I'm thinking of is kind of some of that psychedelic feel too. I don't know, it made me think of the band Cream and a little bit of Zeppelin too, where you got kind of that echo in there, but it's not like the predominant sound.
Yeah. Speaking of Zeppelin, when I was writing Tiger Lily, first time I was thinking about like acoustic side of Zeppelin.
I can see that now.
Yeah. And as to guitar, I use Gretsch Tennessee Rose and also Telecaster. Yeah,
Nice.
Fender Telecaster. Yep.
Shout out to Fender. Thank you for supplying us with some gear.
We're very Portland band to play a lot of Fender stuff. I play an offset guitar, which is also a very Portland thing. I play Jazzmaster, so basic, but it has a sound, and I like the action on it. So I mostly play that these days, and I used to have a very kind of overwhelming, kind of complex pedal board, and for shoegaze music, kind of have to, but I actually downsized and just have 4 pedals now. A lot of them do a lot of different things, but yeah, I have the Loomer pedal by Keeley, who is it's basically like my Bloody Valentine in a box. So you get a lot of those sounds. You can flip the order, the effects. You can put the fuzz at the end, which is what Kevin Shields used to do. So that's why you have like that huge wall sound. Is that the fuzz basically compresses the whole guitar with the reverb and everything. So everything sounds really together, like gels really well. But it's just like this really like big fuzzed out.
It's that big orchestral thing I was referring to. It's like, that's it. It's that pedal.
I heard him describe, I think it was a documentary about my Bloody Valentine. They were talking about how the vision for the band when they started moving that direction in the early 90s was that, because originally they were kind of like a post-punk band, and then they were, kind of revamping themselves, trying to reinvent themselves, I guess. And they were describing it, the concept was, if you're, you look at the horizon never ends. And it's just like this very repetitive kind of like wall of sound that is really like distorted and like saturated and at the same time really beautiful, which most people don't think of like distortion as being beautiful. But I think my Bloody Valentine really taught me to like appreciate like distortion, fuzz, saturation, overdrive, whatever, all the distortion, the gain staging may be. To think about it in like this very beautiful like way to create a soundscape and like make it kind of more cinematic, if you will, and use a lot of like pitch shifting so that it sounds kind of broken and kind of old, and it adds a lot of character to the music. So that's something I've been trying to do a lot more, not just with the guitar rig that I use, but I also play I mentioned I play modular, and I actually mostly use effects in my modular case for this band. I don't really do a lot of like synthesizing in the modular itself because I play a mellotron, and so even the keys that we use have this very old kind of like broken sound. The mellotron, I can actually adjust the modulation so it sounds like old and broken, like the motor is failing.
Vibe instead of an 80s synth sound.
Definitely into like 60s and 70s, that kind of like aesthetic. And I think a lot of, in the last few years, it's gotten cool again. You see all these like tape musicians on Instagram that like do stuff with cassette and tape loops and Amulets here in town.
Cassette tape t-shirt here.
Yeah, I think Amulets here in town is a big reason why we have such a big like cassette culture and like lo-fi culture across genres of music, really. But I think shoegaze did that in the 90s.
Well, and cassettes are also easier and less expensive to produce than vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
They're a lot more accessible.
I do want to ask, obviously we mentioned before, people can go to your Instagram to find your music. If people go to a show and want to purchase music, what format is it in? Are they buying a download card or what are they getting?
Yes, yeah. So we have CDs for the full album and also the 2 EPs on Spotify. Yep. And so speaking of the 2 EPs, you can basically take if you want. It's like a donation accepted kind of thing.
Right, so it's a pay whatever you want sort of thing.
Yeah. And the full album is like about like $10 to $15, like sliding scale. Yeah.
Yeah. We're hoping to release, we're going to start working on a new album pretty soon now that we have a new formation and new songs and this kind of new aesthetic in some ways, and we can talk a little bit more about that, but we're hoping to release something cassette exactly for the reasons that I'm a big cassette person. I actually don't really buy a lot of vinyl anymore, and it's so cool that a lot of bands are like releasing things on cassette because I grew up with that sound. Like my first records were actually cassette records as a little kid in the 90s, like early 90s, late 80s, and I love the sound. I love the aesthetic. I love the fact that you have to rewind. I love everything about cassette. It's so like nostalgic, but also there's something so like beautiful about like having to mechanically play with a piece of media.
Yeah, it is something about having that tangible piece of music instead of, I mean, obviously I'm a huge music consumer and so I consume every format imaginable, but there is something to be said about having that tangible piece that you can hold. Like I'm totally one of those people that will lay on the couch with the liner notes while listening to music.
Yeah, I'm
and
definitely in that.
it does lend something to that. And speaking of those liner notes, is of course I was laying on the couch listening to music, just to shift gears a little bit on you. There's a lot of that natural element you bring in. There's these natural landscapes that you could sort of feel kind of that big cinematic sound you talked about, but it has sort of like, I'm imagining those scenes in movies where you have the very wide shot and you could see the ocean or you could see the field and you just kind of have that sense of big nature happening.
Yeah.
Can you tell me when you're writing, like your writing process, I'm wondering, are you the kind of person that like goes for a hike and then writes a song or is there a particular place or something that inspires those natural elements?
Yeah. So speaking of that natural landscape, it is essentially not necessarily like based on the real landscape, but it's more like a mental sketch or sketch
like a mindscape,
psychology.
right?
Yeah. Mindscape. Yeah,
That's
with
really
like
cool.
nature elements. Yeah. So for my graduate study, I work on Japanese literature, and my focus is Japanese poetry and aesthetics related to nature and seasons. So, and the album actually goes along with the season. And but the speaking of the landscape, I use that kind of inspiration I got from Japanese poetry. Like Torch might be a kind of a good example. Well, it's not just Japanese poetry, but a lot of different kinds of poetry. Yeah.
Right. Like there's who was the song Autumn something? I'm trying to remember the full name of it now. Autumn Lights. Yeah, that one. There's a like you can actually hear water sounds in, and you can. It does kind of have that lush feel of like going for a walk in the woods and hearing the wind and everything. And that's again, what brought to mind, okay, where is this person when they're writing this song? And now that you mentioned, okay, it's not a particular place, it makes me wonder, okay, what are you seeing in that mental landscape as you're writing? What is the process? Do you have that imagery first and then you bring it, or are you kind of playing with different sound elements as you write? Or tell me a bit about the process.
I think maybe Torch would be a good example to talk about, because it is inspired by a Japanese poetry, which is actually a haiku. But so the haiku, can I read it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just
I
introduce
mean,
the name
really
of
short.
who is the person who wrote it.
So the poet is Yamaguchi Seishi, and the poem goes, distant sail, under blazing sun, sail of my heart. And the description is like, so this one is from Ensei, which is Distant Star, published in 1947. But when he wrote this, he was in Kyoto, and he is one of the most well-known haiku poet today. And here's a short description, but depending on one's point of view, one might call this either a poem of youth in which a young person expresses longing, or else a poem of maturity in which an older person's sense of regret and isolation is projected onto a sail seen far off in the distance. The brief haiku form, rather than conveying its creator's real meaning openly, sometimes, as here, shows us a strangely beautiful world beyond time, beyond thought. So this sort of like seeing something from the far distance, and well, this thing itself was a big inspiration of Torch, and that lyrics, the chorus goes, bright green, I was there, bright green, we were there. So this is the chorus lyrics of Torch, but this bright green is sort of a symbol of youth or youthful feeling. And the first verse goes like this, the scent of the autumn wind, but no one is there. So that means a person is realizing that the summer is ending and the autumn is coming, but he is the only one realizing it. And this summer and autumn is sort of a metaphor of sort of a shifting phase from like youthful time to a little mature time. And he kind of senses that, I mean, the protagonist kind of senses that he's getting older and getting mature, but he is like feeling it on his own. And then Torch, this song is sort of a ocean landscape, and then looking at the ocean, and then see this green lights in the ocean, and this green light is sort of a symbol of youth. So it's like a person getting older is looking at like youthful energy, and then being a little sentimental about it.
Yeah. How would you compare that to the song Wasteland Spring? Because there's that you're talking about those green elements and youth, and I'm wondering what was the intention then with Wasteland Spring?
Yeah, so Wasteland Spring is the theme of Wasteland Spring is sort of a handful of hope and modern dystopia. So, and Wasteland Spring is actually inspired by T.S. Eliot's Wasteland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so back then I was actually taking American poetry class with Ray, who is singer of Tremor. She also went to PSU. So But the in Wasteland, T.S. Eliot starts the line with the April as the cruelest month because he kind of takes April or spring as sort of a season of hope, like season brings hope to everybody. But in modern dystopia, there's no hope, so that's hopeless April as the cruelest months. And I kind of, put it upside down, and I wanted to use this sort of a strong association with spring and hope. And Wasteland Spring is like we live in this modern dystopia, but there's still a hope, which are dreams and love. So Wasteland Spring is probably more youthful energy compared to Torch, and way more hopeful than Torch, actually. Yeah.
Which is a bit ironic since Wasteland Spring would be the opposite of hope.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I like that kind of contrast and irony. So that's the aesthetics.
Okay, I'm gonna shift over a little bit since I know I've peppered you with so many questions, Tepe, but I also want to make sure, Bevo, that we ask you a few questions here since you are here and got all dressed up for us. Talk to me a little bit about what you've been listening to lately.
Oh my gosh. Let's see what's been on repeat for me. I listen to a lot of different kinds of music, and that's why I play all these weird instruments, because I can do it all. I can even do it all by myself. That's the whole purpose of playing modular.
Which I was going to say, you do have a solo project. You do.
I do, yeah. So yeah, I'm playing on Sunday actually, opening the night for the other bands, the local bands, and so I listen to a lot of ambient music. I listen to a lot of like mid-tempo electronic music as well. My favorite electronic musician is Pie Corner Audio from the UK. Listen to his music a lot. It's very kind of dystopian, cinematic, kind of shoegazy electronic music. Has a lot of beautiful like soundscapes and but still has like very like old school electronic elements from like acid house and stuff. So it's kind of all over the place. Listen to a lot of like 60s Brazilian psychedelic music. Being from Brazil is kind of like very nostalgic and a good way for me to like stay connected. Like Os Mutantes is one of my favorite bands. And Rita Lee, one of the singers, just passed last week actually, so I've been listening to them a lot. And what else? I listen to my Bloody Valentine religiously. I have a Bloody Valentine sticker on my guitar. I have posters on my wall, so I'm kind of obsessed. And then one of my other favorite bands, and these are all very different, as you can probably tell. My favorite band of all time is actually The Clash. I have a Clash tattoo. They were the band that really like got me into not just music but like politics and really thinking about music as like a whole package, right? Like there's the aesthetic, the visual, the sound, there's the politics, there's the values, there's the community aspect, and they also expanded my like music horizon quite a bit because they were playing all kinds of music from jazz to blues to rocksteady to I don't know, anything you can think of. As long as they were interested in kind of music, they would try to make it their own and bring their own voice to that music. So it wasn't necessarily like stealing, it was more like borrowing elements and things they're interested in and like making it their own. And so I think that there's something about that kind of music, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in Tremors, that I feel like we have a similar set of values and aesthetic where like it's very conceptual, as you can hear from when Tepe's talking about the lyrics that he writes, but there's also like so much room for us to explore music without necessarily being like, oh, this doesn't work with this genre of music, because we don't really bound to any really particular genre of music. It's more of like an idea or a set of ideas, at least in my opinion.
Right. Before we run out of time, because I know we're getting close to the top of the hour here, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate Tremor, both of you being here. Make sure people know where they can find your music and how to best to get in touch with you.
Yep. So Instagram is probably the best place to go. It's Tremor Band PDX, and we have a link tree there, so you can find our music, and we have our email address on our Instagram account, so you can if you want to play with us, you can message us through Instagram, or you can email us. And if you want to find out about our next show, we usually put our ads on Instagram account, so you can find us there.
Yeah.
That's great.
And we're going to be building some bills for some late summer, early fall shows. So if you're interested in potentially playing with us, drop us a DM. And also, if you ever want a band to open a show for you, or just share a bill in one way or another, you can always reach out as well. For me personally, I'm all about community, so I'd love to meet more people and just continue to like network and have a little community in a place where, at least in my experience, not always easy to build. So.
Definitely we need sort of a good connection, and we want to get into like Portland music scene. I mean, we want to be a part of Portland music scene, so
Right, which, speaking of, you're going to be a part of that this weekend at Holocene.
Yep.
What time does the show start?
So the show starts, so the door is at 8 and the music starts at 8:30
Sharp. Like, not Portland 8:30, like 8:30 8:30. So the doors will open at 8 and the show will actually start at 8:30. So if you want to catch all the sets, try to get there by 8:30 the latest. I'm going to start the night with a 20-minute short ambient shoegazy kind of modular performance, and then we'll have the 3 bands back to back. So we'll be wrapping up around 11 or so.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've noticed that trend sort of, I want to say post-pandemic, but we still have some elements of pandemic happening. But in the sort of new world, I guess you could say, that we live in, a lot of shows seem to be starting earlier and earlier and ending earlier and earlier. Like, it used to be, they would say a show starts at 8:30, but really it didn't start till like 9:30, and it would end, even though they'd say it would end like around 11, it wouldn't end till like 12:30 or 1 a.m. But now, as you were saying, no, it's going to start right at 8:30.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it that way, though. I'm getting old.
I was going to say, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's maybe it's a sign of age, or maybe it's also just, again, sign of the new world we live in, where people are like, no, I'd rather get home early.
I think prioritizing sleep sounds like a good idea to me. I mean, I like to hang out and listen to music, but I also like to sleep. So maybe I'm just old.
Maybe it's what you just touched on there. We're prioritizing sleep now. So
hopefully.
That would be good. But also just got to give that nice little tie-in, since you mentioned sleep. We've got the cool sleepover slumber party theme happening here. So shout out to the 28-hour broadcast here at KPSU. And now that we're hitting the top of the hour, of course, have to remind people that you are tuned in to KPSU, Portland's college radio station, which has been streaming since 1994. That's right, 28 years of KPSU. We're streaming to you worldwide 24/7 at www.kpsu.org, where all of our fabulous shows are available for podcast and download at your leisure. And I have to remind you, as always, that the views and opinions expressed in our program do not necessarily represent KPSU, Portland State University, or any of our participating affiliates. Listener discretion is advised. And on that note, we do have some more music I want to share with you. We've got, it looks like, to wrap up the show, we've got Wasteland Spring, which I believe is the title track off your latest album. Is that right?
Yes, so that was the first single from the full album. So yeah.
That's when we're going to end on. Before we end on that, is there anything else you wanted to mention, or shout outs you wanted to give?
I would just say that
come to the show this Sunday.
and we're going to be announcing a future dates pretty soon too. We're just kind of figuring out some logistical things for future shows, so like late summer, early fall. Some of us are going to be abroad for a month or so this summer, so we're not going to be playing for a while, probably not till August. So this is a good last opportunity until the beginning of August.
And maybe, well, speaking of August, maybe we're going to play at PSU Saturday Market. Like acoustic set. I mean, we are still kind of planning it, but
Okay, so there might be a few gigs in between, and for those who want to find out, your Instagram is the best one, right?
Yep.
Okay, and for those just tuning in or maybe trying to type it in and not finding it, it's Tremors, spelled Tremors.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. I made that mistake looking for it earlier, putting Tremer for some reason. I think I was thinking of the music tremor instead of like the
Yeah.
earthquake tremor.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So earthquake tremor, OR. That's how to find you guys.
Yeah.
And then again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to hearing more of your music.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. Thank
Of course, before we go, can I have you do a quick station drop? Just, this is Tremor, and you're listening to KPSU.
You want to do it? All right. This is Tremor.
You were listening to KPSU.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much for being here. Here is Wasteland Spring by Tremor.